Be me, 32, tech lead at a mid-sized software company, or at least I was. This all went down a few months ago. Been with the company for a decade, started right out of college, worked my way up from junior dev to leading the core engineering team. Our team, basically me and my right-hand man, Dave, was the engine of the company. We built and maintained the flagship product that brought in 80% of the revenue. Dave is one of those quiet genius types, pushing 35, looks permanently tired, but can solve a server crisis with a few keystrokes while eating a cold slice of pizza. We weren't just colleagues, we were like veterans of a long war. We'd pulled all-nighters, fixed bugs on Christmas Eve, rebuilt the entire database from backups after a catastrophic failure. The old CEO, a guy in his late 60s, was tough but fair. He didn't understand our work, but he understood results. As long as the product worked and the clients were happy, he left us alone and signed off on our hardware requests and bonuses. It was a good gig, stable, predictable, and we were respected for our skills. We were the foundation. If we had a problem, the company had a problem. Everyone knew it. Then, sometime last spring, the old CEO announced his retirement. We all gave him a nice send-off, got him a watch, wished him well. The board of directors took a few weeks to decide on a replacement. We were all expecting them to promote the COO, a solid guy who knew the business inside and out. Instead, we get a company-wide email. Please welcome our new CEO, Miranda. Attached was a stock photo of a woman in her late 30s with that specific aggressive corporate smile. Her bio was full of buzzwords: synergistic leadership, paradigm-shifting innovation, empowerment-focused growth. Her previous job was a marketing director at some trendy startup that sold subscription boxes for organic dog food. My first thought was, well, she doesn't know anything about enterprise software. Dave's reaction was even simpler. He just looked at the email, grunted, and put his headphones back on. The first all-hands meeting was something else. Miranda walks on stage and talks for an hour without saying anything of substance. It was all about changing the company's cultural narrative. She said the old way of doing things was too rigid, too masculine, too focused on cold, hard metrics. She wanted to build a holistic, empathetic, and inclusive ecosystem. A few people in the sales and marketing departments were clapping enthusiastically. The engineering and finance guys just sat there, looking confused. She ended the speech by saying her first priority was to reevaluate leadership to better reflect our new company values. That was the first red flag. A week later, two of the most competent department heads, both men in their 50s who had been with the company for 20 years, were let go. The official reason was restructuring. The unofficial reason we all heard was that Miranda found them unreceptive to new ideas. Their replacements were two women from outside the company with half the experience. Around the same time, Miranda personally hired a new head of culture and innovation. Enter Tiffany. Tiffany was maybe 24. Her main qualification seemed to be a very active and colorful social media presence. Her job, as far as we could tell, was to walk around the office with an iPad, taking pictures for the company's Instagram page and organizing wellness initiatives. Our first interaction with her was when she sent a mandatory calendar invite for a Mindfulness Monday session. It was scheduled for 9 a.m., right when our team always did our weekly code deployment. I declined the invite from my team, explaining we had a critical production release. I got an email back from Miranda herself, not Tiffany. It said that my refusal to participate in team-building activities was noted, and that I needed to be more of a team player. So, the next Monday, Dave and I had to sit in a conference room with a dozen other people, learning how to do deep breathing exercises, while a critical server was throwing error alerts to my phone. The company was changing, and not for the better. Miranda started to insert herself into every department. She'd sit in on our technical planning meetings. She didn't understand a word we were saying, but she'd interrupt to ask questions like, does this feature have an emotional component? Or, how can we make this user interface feel more welcoming? I'd try to explain the technical constraints, the back-end logic, the database limitations. She'd just nod, look at me with a blank expression and say, I hear a lot of can't from you, Arthur. I want to hear how. Then she'd turn to Tiffany, who she started bringing to every meeting, and ask, Tiffany, what's your take on the emotional journey of the user here? Tiffany would say something like, I feel like the color palette is a bit aggressive. Maybe we could soften it with some pastel shades. And Miranda would light up. Excellent idea, Tiffany. See, Arthur? That's the kind of out-of-the-box thinking we need. I started to realize that competence was no longer the currency in this company. It was all about vibes. The real problem started when budgets got involved. Our server infrastructure was getting old. I put together a detailed proposal for a phased migration to a new cloud-based system. It was a big project, but it would save us money in the long run and make our product faster and more reliable. I presented it to Miranda. She skimmed the first page, saw the cost estimate, and pushed it back across the table. The budget is frozen for all non-essential hardware upgrades, she said. We need to focus our capital on investing in our people. 2 weeks later, an email goes out announcing a complete renovation of the office's 3rd floor. This was Tiffany's big project. They were tearing down walls to create an open-concept collaborative space. They bought new furniture, installed a kombucha tap in the kitchen, and spent what must have been a fortune on potted plants. The centerpiece was a serenity room with beanbag chairs and an essential oil diffuser. The cost of the renovation was easily 3 times what I had asked for to secure the company's entire technical foundation. Dave and I were still working on machines that sounded like jet engines, but the marketing team had artisanal coffee and ergonomic chairs designed in Sweden. It was infuriating, but we just kept our heads down and did our work. The product was our responsibility, and we took pride in it, even if the person at the top didn't seem to care. The breaking point was a slow burn, built on a dozen small incidents. One time, a major client, our biggest account, had a critical system failure on a Friday afternoon. Their entire operation was down. They were losing thousands of dollars every hour. They were furious. Miranda's immediate response was to call a meeting with the crisis management team, which now included Tiffany. Tiffany's contribution to the meeting was to suggest that we send the client a gift basket to show that we care. Meanwhile, Dave was already deep in the server logs. He didn't even join the meeting. He found the issue in about 20 minutes. A recent third-party API update that Tiffany's innovation team had pushed through without proper testing was causing a massive memory leak. He wrote a patch, deployed it, and had the client back online before Miranda had even finished drafting her apology email. He literally saved the company from a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. On Monday morning, there was a company-wide meeting. Miranda stood up and announced that she wanted to publicly recognize the team that handled the client crisis so well. I thought, finally, Dave is going to get the credit he deserves. Instead, Miranda called Tiffany up to the front. She praised Tiffany for her calm leadership under pressure and her empathy-first approach to client relations. She talked about how Tiffany's quick thinking helped to de-escalate the situation. Dave's name was never mentioned, not once. He wasn't even invited to the meeting because he was busy running diagnostics to make sure the fix would hold. I looked across the room at him in our glass-walled office. He was just staring at his screen, headphones on. He probably didn't even know he was being ignored, but I knew. And I saw the looks on the faces of the other senior guys in the company. They knew too. The message was clear. Actual work didn't matter. Only performing for Miranda mattered. After that, the culture got worse. Miranda implemented a new transparent salary policy. All new job postings had salary ranges listed. We quickly noticed that the ranges for new hires, almost exclusively women, Tiffany knew from her networking events, were significantly higher than what the existing male employees were making. When a few of the guys on my team tried to ask for raises to match the new hires they were training, they were told the budget was tight and they should be grateful to have a job. Morale plummeted. The good guys, the ones who just wanted to build good software, started to get quiet. They stopped suggesting new ideas in meetings. They stopped working late. They just did the bare minimum to not get fired. It was a silent protest. Dave and I kept the core product running. We had to. It was a matter of professional pride, but we started talking more, not about work, but about our options. We'd go for a beer after a particularly frustrating day and just map out what it would take to leave. We both had families, mortgages. We couldn't just walk out. We needed a plan. The final nail in the coffin came in the fall. The vice president of operations, a holdover from the old regime, finally had enough and retired early. This was a huge position. The VP of Ops was basically the number 2 in the company, overseeing all the technical and product departments. By every metric, I was the only logical candidate for the job. I had 10 years of experience. I built the product. I managed the team that kept the lights on. I knew the systems better than anyone. Even people in other departments were coming up to me and congratulating me in advance. It was seen as a sure thing. I spent 2 weeks preparing for the interview. I put together a 50-page presentation outlining a 5-year strategy. How to modernize our tech stack, how to improve efficiency, how to expand into new markets. I had charts, graphs, financial projections. I was ready. I walked into the interview with Miranda feeling confident. She was sitting at her huge empty desk, scrolling through her phone. She told me to begin. I got about 5 minutes into my presentation, explaining the need for a database overhaul. She held up her hand to stop me. "Arthur," she said, "I'm not interested in the technical details. I trust you know what you're doing there." My heart sank. That was the corporate kiss of death. "What I want to know," she continued, leaning forward, "is about you, your leadership style. Some people find you a bit intimidating, abrasive even." I was floored. I manage a team of 4 introverted engineers. Our daily interactions consist of morning, "Did you see the ticket about the API bug?" and "See you tomorrow." "I'm not sure what you mean," I said. "Well," she said, tapping a pen on her desk, "you're very direct. You focus on problems, not people. How would you foster a sense of psychological safety in your department?" The interview was a series of these questions. Nothing about my strategy, my experience, or my plan to grow the company's revenue. It was all about my emotional availability and whether my management style could be perceived as a manifestation of toxic masculinity. I tried my best to answer her bizarre questions with corporate-friendly language, but I knew it was hopeless. She wasn't interviewing me for a job. She was judging me for a crime I didn't know I was accused of. The interview ended with her saying, "Thank you for your time, Arthur. We have one other candidate to consider, and we'll let you know." I knew who the other candidate was. There was only one other person who had even applied. 2 days later, the email went out. "We are thrilled to announce that Tiffany has been promoted to Vice President of Operations." The email was full of praise for her visionary leadership, her unparalleled people skills, and her passion for our company's culture. Her qualifications for overseeing the entire technical infrastructure of a multi-million-dollar company. She had organized a successful office yoga class. Later that day, Miranda called me into her office. She had that fake, sympathetic look on her face. She told me she knew I must be disappointed. She said I was a valuable asset to the company, a real rock star in my field. But the company needed a new direction. It needed a face for the future. "Honestly, Arthur," she said, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret, "your style is just a bit old-fashioned. We need a leader who is more approachable, more collaborative. Tiffany just has a natural talent for that. You could probably learn a lot from her." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, nodding. Inside, I wasn't angry. The anger had burned out months ago. What I felt was a strange sense of calm, a clarity. The game was rigged. The rules didn't matter. Merit was a joke. Trying to win was a fool's errand. The only winning move was not to play. "I understand," I said. "Thank you for the opportunity." I walked out of her office and went straight to my desk. I opened my laptop, ignored the 100 unread emails, and started updating my resume. The foundation was about to crumble, and this time, I wasn't going to be there to fix it. I walked straight over to Dave's desk. He had his headphones on, deep in some code. He didn't even notice me standing there for a good 30 seconds. I tapped him on the shoulder. He took his headphones off, looking annoyed at the interruption. "What's up?" I didn't need a long speech. She gave the VP job to Tiffany. Dave didn't react at first. He just stared at me, processing. Then he gave a slow, deliberate nod. The kind of nod a man gives when his worst suspicions are confirmed. He didn't ask questions. He didn't complain. "Okay," he said, his voice flat. "Time to go." He swiveled back to his monitor, closed his coding environment, and opened a browser. I didn't need to ask what he was doing. That conversation in the bar wasn't just talk. It was a pact. We had a simple rule. We stick together, and we leave on our own terms. That evening, we both went home and polished our resumes. It felt strange. For 10 years, my resume had just been a static document. Now, it was an escape plan. I sent out applications to 5 companies. By the end of the next day, I had 3 emails asking to schedule interviews. Turns out, A decade of experience building and maintaining a profitable software product is a pretty good selling point. Who would have thought? Dave had a similar experience. He was a specialist in a niche field of database management. He was getting messages from recruiters before he even finished updating his online profile. We were valuable. The market knew it. Our own company was the only one that didn't. The next 2 weeks were surreal. During the day, we were model employees. We attended Tiffany's pointless meetings. We nodded along as she talked about brand synergy and disrupting the emotional landscape. She had a meeting about changing the login button's text from sign in to welcome back, claiming it was more inclusive. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Dave and I just sat in the back, exchanging glances. But in the background, we were preparing our exit. We started quietly untangling ourselves from the system. Not sabotage. That's not our style. It was more like malicious compliance. Over the years, I had written dozens of custom scripts and personal cheat sheets to manage the system. How to reboot a specific server without causing a data cascade. How to clear a locked cache on the main application. A step-by-step guide for the emergency database restore process. This documentation wasn't official company property. It was in a personal folder on my drive, stuff I created on my own time to make my life easier. So, I deleted it. All of it. The official company documentation was hopelessly outdated, written by an intern 5 years ago. Good luck with that. Dave did his part too. The admin passwords for all the critical systems were supposed to be this ridiculously long, complex string stored in a digital vault that only the VP of Ops was supposed to have access to. But the old VP never used it, and nobody knew how to work the vault software. So Dave had set up simpler, more memorable passwords for the systems we use daily. He was the only one who knew them all. He spent an afternoon methodically going through every system and resetting the passwords to the official ones from the vault. He was effectively locking the doors and handing the keys to Tiffany, knowing full well she wouldn't know which key fit which lock. We also stopped being proactive. Before, if we saw a potential problem brewing in the server logs, we'd fix it before it became a crisis. Now, we just followed the official procedure. No ticket in the system, not our problem. The company was a patient, and we were the 2 doctors who had stopped treating the underlying illness and were now just handing out band-aids for the visible symptoms. The patient felt fine, but the cancer was spreading. Within a week, we both had solid job offers. I was hired as a director of engineering at a competitor, 30% pay raise, better benefits, and a signing bonus. Dave was hired as a principal architect at a cloud computing firm. They basically offered him a blank check. We accepted the offers on a Friday. We agreed to start in 3 weeks, and we agreed on a day to drop the bomb. It was a Monday morning, about 2 weeks before the end of the quarter. This was always the most critical time for us. We had to finalize all the data for the quarterly investor report. The system had to be perfectly stable. Any downtime would be a disaster. We walked into the office together. We didn't say a word. We went to the printer, printed our resignation letters, signed them, and walked straight to Miranda's office. Her door was open. She was on a video call, laughing about something with someone who looked like a lifestyle influencer. She saw us, held up a finger, and finished her call. "Boys," she said, smiling, "what can I do for you?" I placed my letter on her desk. Dave placed his next to mine. Her smile vanished. She picked up my letter, read the first line, then picked up Dave's. For a moment, she looked genuinely shocked. I don't think the possibility that we would actually leave had ever crossed her mind. Then the shock turned into anger. "Is this a joke?" she asked. "No," I said. "Our official last day will be in 2 weeks." She leaned back in her chair and let out a short, sharp laugh. It was a horrible sound. "You think you're so important, don't you?" she sneered. "You think this company can't function without you?" "We're just giving you our notice," Dave said, his voice as calm as ever. "Oh, I know what this is," she said, pointing a finger at us. "This is a power play, a little protest because you didn't get the promotion. It's pathetic. Typical male ego." I didn't say anything. I just stood there. "You know what? Fine," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "You want to leave? Leave. I've been wanting to rebuild the tech department with a more diverse and forward-thinking team anyway. This just speeds up the process." Then I decided to give her a little push. "Our contracts require a 2-week notice period," I said. but we're willing to waive that if you'd prefer an immediate departure. We can be gone today." I was betting on her ego. I knew she couldn't resist the chance to fire us. Her eyes lit up. She saw it as a victory. "You want to leave today? Wonderful," she said, grabbing a pen. "I accept your immediate resignation. Get your personal belongings, and I want you out of this building in 1 hour." She scribbled her signature on the bottom of our letters with a flourish. "Don't let the door hit you on the way out," she said, turning back to her computer as if we were already gone. We walked out of her office. The walk back to our desks was the best walk I'd taken in years. It was a walk of pure, unadulterated freedom. We packed our boxes in silence. A few of the other senior guys, the ones who had been there for years, came by. They didn't say much. They just shook our hands, gave us a knowing look. It was a look that said, "Good for you. We wish we could do the same." As we were walking out, we passed Tiffany. She was leading a group of new hires, all young women in their early 20s, on an office tour. She was pointing at the kombucha tap. "And this is our wellness hub," she was saying. "It's all about creating a positive and nurturing environment." She saw us with our boxes and just gave a smug little smile. We walked out the front doors into the sunshine. We didn't look back. The first call came on Tuesday afternoon. It was from one of the junior developers on my old team. He sounded panicked. "Arthur," he said, "the automated billing script didn't run last night. Nobody got the notification. Do you know why? The script failed because it relied on an authentication token that expired on the 1st of the month. I had a personal calendar reminder to renew it every month. I had deleted that reminder." "Sorry, I don't work there anymore," I said. "You should ask your VP of operations." I hung up. The real fun started on Wednesday. Dave got a text from a former colleague. The main database server was throwing thousands of error messages a minute. The system was slowing to a crawl. This was the technical debt coming due. The small problems we had stopped fixing were now becoming big problems. Tiffany's response, according to our source, was to call an all-hands meeting for the tech department. In the meeting, she didn't talk about the server errors. She talked about the negative energy in the department since Dave and I left. She announced that they would be starting a new initiative, Gratitude Fridays, where everyone would go around and say something they were thankful for. While she was talking about gratitude, the main product's login page went down. No new customers could sign in. Existing customers were getting timed-out errors. The support lines lit up like a Christmas tree. By Friday, the company was in a death spiral. The billing system was still down. No money was coming in. The main product was barely functional. Customers were furious. Miranda had locked herself in her office, screaming at people on the phone. Tiffany was reportedly seen crying in the Serenity room. They tried to hire emergency outside consultants. The consultants took one look at the system, saw the lack of documentation and the mess of failing hardware, and quoted them an astronomical price. They asked for the admin passwords to get started. Tiffany didn't have them. That's when my phone rang. It was Saturday morning. I was at a park with my kids. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered it anyway. "Hello? Arthur, it's Miranda." Her voice was completely different. The arrogance was gone. It was thin, strained. "Hi, Miranda," I said, keeping my tone perfectly neutral. "Listen, Arthur, we've had a few technical hiccups here," she said, trying to sound casual. "It seems there's been some confusion about the server passwords. Tiffany can't seem to locate them. Would you happen to remember what they are?" I let the silence hang for a moment. "I might," I said. I could hear the relief in her voice. "Oh, thank God. Could you just text them to me? It's a real emergency." "Miranda," I said calmly, "I no longer work for your company. Any work I perform, including providing institutional knowledge like passwords, is considered consulting." Silence on the other end. "What?" she finally stammered. "My consulting rate is $500 per hour," I continued. "I have a 10-hour minimum, and I require a 50% deposit up front before any work begins. I can send you a contract." She was quiet for a long time. I could hear her breathing. "You can't be serious," she whispered. "The company is falling apart." "That does sound like an emergency," I said. "My rates for emergency weekend work are double, so that would be a $1,000 per hour fee." She completely lost it. You did this," she shrieked. "This is sabotage. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to ruin you." "Miranda," I said, my voice still perfectly calm, You personally signed my immediate unconditional resignation. Our relationship is over. Any further contact will be considered harassment. I continued. You said you wanted a company with a new culture. You wanted to get rid of the old ways. Well, you got it. This is the company you built. Enjoy it. Then I hung up. I blocked her number. 2 weeks later, we heard from an old colleague that the company had lost its biggest client. A month after that, a notice went out announcing that the board of directors had voted to remove Miranda as CEO, effective immediately. The company was eventually sold for parts to a larger corporation for a fraction of its former value. Most of the staff were laid off. Tiffany's social media profile now lists her as a freelance brand strategist and wellness coach. Dave and I are thriving at our new jobs. We work at a place where competence is valued, where people are judged by the quality of their work, not by their ability to recite buzzwords. We get paid well, we're respected, and the work is interesting. Sometimes, late at night, I think about Miranda. I don't hate her. I don't feel anything for her at all. She was just a force of nature, like a storm or a flood. She came in, destroyed everything, and then she was gone. She thought the foundation of the company was made of beanbag chairs and positive vibes. She learned the hard way that it was built by two tired guys in a server room, held together by experience, dedication, and a few lines of code she would never understand. Never interrupt your enemy when they are making a mistake. Meritocracy always wins. You just have to be willing to change the battlefield.